I was the aloof top scholar of our school. With elite grades, flawless conduct, and a multitude of talents, I was the literal definition of the neighbor's perfect kid that everyone's mom wouldn't shut up about. However, it wasn't until my life reached its premature finale that I suddenly realized I didn't have any main character halo. The uneducated, talentless school bully Ethan Cross was the actual male lead of this world. As for me, I didn't even qualify to be the vicious secondary male lead. According to the original novel's description, he fell in love at first sight with my childhood friend Lily Vance and relentlessly pursued her using every trick in the book. He was the typical playboy male lead, sporting a careless attitude and a handsome, slightly rebellious vibe. It was enough to make a high and mighty icy flower like Lily Vance melt and fall for him. Compared to their blurry, dramatic romantic entanglement, a guy like me who kicked the bucket early was nothing but a catalyst for their relationship. And so, the flower on the high peak was dragged down to the mortal realm, becoming a love-struck fool who lived and died for romance. Being reborn for a second life, I finally realized that this world was just a ridiculously melodramatic novel. The school bully, Ethan Cross, was the male-led, and my cold childhood friend was the female-led. The intense, extreme entanglement between the school boss and the ice beauty once made readers exclaim, "This love is too deep!" Under the author's pen, Ethan Cross was an arrogant, untamed, flirtatious, and handsome male-led. He was an existence capable of melting a block of ice like Lily Vance. Compared to their dramatic saga, a short-lived extra like me was just a plot device to push their feelings forward. Even though I never even liked Lily Vance, I still wasn't worthy of being a proper villain. In Ethan Cross's eyes, an outstanding straight-A student like me was just a pretentious show-off. He would often look at me coldly and say, "Kyle Bates, what are you acting all high and mighty for? You just had better luck reincarnating into a good family than I did. If I actually wanted to study, you'd never catch up to me." In his eyes, my reminders to Lily Vance not to hang out and fool around with him were seen as me looking down on him. And because of Ethan Cross, Lily Vance thought I was being petty and narrow-minded, so she gradually distanced herself from me. I knew you couldn't reason with someone who was already lovesick, so I couldn't be bothered to care anymore. But fate can be truly laughable sometimes. Maybe Ethan Cross saw me as an imaginary rival. Maybe my existence seriously hindered their little dating sessions. Or maybe I was just destined to be a stepping stone on Ethan Cross's journey of personal growth. Right on the eve of the college entrance exams, I met my tragic end in that dark alleyway. A heavy midnight rain washed away all the evidence. It wasn't until the next morning that my body was discovered. Because the timing was so sensitive, the news of an 18-year-old boy's bizarre passing was immediately blasted all over the media. I passed away at the exact age when I was about to spread my wings and turn into a butterfly, returning to the dust instead. Everyone felt incredibly sorry for me. No one knew that I met my doom entirely because of Ethan Cross. Because he had offended a group of local street thugs near the school, he was cornered and targeted by them in that alley. So, when he saw me walking by, he enthusiastically called out my name as if we were best buddies. He turned me into a human shield to draw their fire, helping him escape. The cunning Ethan Cross successfully ran away. Before bolting, he looked at me with an incredibly apologetic face and said, "I'll go find people to help right now. Just hold on a minute." However, just like the thugs predicted, he completely vanished and never showed up again. Seeing that I was alone, the street punks immediately surrounded me, raining punches and kicks down on me. 2 fists can't fight off 4 hands, let alone a whole gang. During the scuffle, I fell backward, the back of my head hitting the stone steps hard, and everything went red. The terrified thugs scattered and ran away. As for me, I fell into an eternal slumber, never to wake up again. After I passed away, I became a lingering spirit. With my own eyes, I watched my mother cry until she passed out at my funeral. I watched Ethan Cross put his arm around my younger sister's shoulder, shamelessly appearing before my tombstone to apologize. He even begged me to forgive his cowardice and timidity. Because of my passing, Ethan Cross suddenly had an epiphany. He thoroughly bid farewell to his past to start a brand new life. He quit smoking, stopped his heavy drinking, painfully got his tattoos removed, and dyed his blonde hair back to black. He stopped throwing money around like trash and completely severed ties with those delinquent youths. Just like that, a reformed Ethan Cross became a legendary figure in the school. With Lily Vance's help, he started studying incredibly hard. Undoubtedly, Ethan Cross was the darling of the heavens. In just 1 short year, he climbed from the absolute bottom of the grade to the top 5, becoming an existence that everyone else couldn't even dream of reaching. Under his massive male-led halo, my tragic passing was gradually forgotten. You could say that the things he achieved so effortlessly were things others couldn't get, even with 12. After the college entrance exams ended, Ethan Cross and Lily Vance both chose to attend a prestigious university. The 2 of them were inseparable on campus, becoming the ultimate power couple in everyone's eyes. My parents, heartbroken by the constant reminders of me, spent their days in deep sorrow and distress. Eventually, they moved to another city to work, only returning on the annual anniversary of my passing. Perhaps out of a guilty conscience, Ethan Cross would send to my parents a bunch of expensive health supplements every year to ease his own guilt. In the year Lily Vance graduated, those street thugs accidentally got caught by the law. The truth about my demise was finally brought to light. Even though she couldn't accept Ethan Cross's cowardly actions, she ultimately couldn't bring herself to leave him. At that time, my younger sister, Chloe Bates, had somehow developed romantic feelings for Ethan Cross through their interactions without anyone knowing. When she found out Ethan Cross was involved in the incident that cost me my life, she couldn't handle it mentally and immediately went abroad to study. On the university campus, seeing that Lily Vance was truly disappointed in him, Ethan Cross cried miserably. He kneeled in front of her, regretfully slapping his own face while apologizing. "Lily, I know it's all my fault, but at that time I was completely out of energy too. Besides, I tripped and passed out after running away. By the time I woke up, Kyle Bates had already passed away. Later I asked those guys, and they said if Kyle hadn't fought back, he wouldn't have met that end." With just a few simple sentences, he shifted all the blame onto me. After all, a person who is no longer breathing can't exactly jump up and argue back. After my sister went abroad, my parents rushed over, determined to make Ethan Cross pay the price. But by now, he had been recognized and claimed by his billionaire father, and he had Lily Vance supporting him by his side. My parents going up against him was like throwing eggs at a rock. In the end, the two elderly people could only support each other as they walked away from the school, their aged backs filled with bitterness and absolute helplessness. As the story concluded, Ethan Cross became a wealthy young master whom everyone flattered and sucked up to. Before even graduating college, Lily Vance married him because she was expecting, giving birth to a pair of twins, a boy and a girl. Later, he smoothly took over the family company, amassing tens of billions in wealth, and the family of 4 lived happily ever after. Even my sister chose to forgive him, even sending loads of gifts to their family every year. My passing was nothing but a tiny ripple on their grand journey of love. To Chloe Bates, it was just an unfortunate accident. No wonder, besides my parents, no one else held on to the grudge of my tragic end. Carrying a heart full of deep unwillingness, I was reborn. I returned to the exact moment when Ethan Cross first fell in love with Lily Vance. "Lily Vance, do you want to come with me later? I'll take you to a really fun place." The moment Ethan Cross walked into the classroom, he sat sideways next to Lily Vance with a playful smirk, his arm resting casually on the back of her chair. While waiting for her answer, his perfectly fine uniform pants were intentionally sagged halfway down his backside. It was that wannabe rapper sagging style where, if he made any sudden movements, you'd get an unfortunate VIP view of his underwear. Lily Vance looked at him with visible disgust, frowned slightly and replied, "No need. I have to go to the library with Kyle Bates to look up some materials later." So, it turned out that even at this early stage, Lily Vance had already started showing signs of having a crush on him. It's so laughable that in my past life, purely out of the loyalty of growing up together, I actually thought about advising her to focus on her studies. I really was a giant fool who loved sticking his nose in other people's business. Hearing this, Ethan Cross looked me up and down, letting out a mocking whistle, his words full of hidden teasing. "Oh, so you're into his type? What if I turned into something like that?" As soon as those words left his mouth, the classmates who hadn't left the room yet all looked at me and Lily Vance with expressions full of juicy gossip. It was as if there was actually something going on between us. Perhaps afraid that Ethan Cross would misunderstand, Lily Vance irritably pinched his arm and said with a serious face, "Ethan Cross, stop talking nonsense." Ethan Cross shook his head, looking utterly disappointed, and replied, all right." With just a few words, Ethan Cross easily made the iceberg Lily Vance change her expression. These two really were a match made in heaven. How he pursued Lily Vance was no longer any of my business, but he definitely shouldn't use me as the punchline for his jokes. I kicked my chair away, grabbed the textbook Lily Vance had on her desk, and threw it straight at his head. I said expressionlessly, "Before, I just thought you were uneducated, but now I see you're just pure stupid. Manage your mouth properly and stop spewing garbage. Don't you know some things can't be joked about? If it gets serious, you'll be getting a school-wide disciplinary notice. If you two want to flirt, leave me out of it. Don't you? What kind of freak are you?" After speaking my piece, I completely ignored Ethan Cross's drastically changing face, grabbed my backpack and walked out. As soon as I got home, I begged my mom to install security cameras outside our house. In my previous life, I always felt that Ethan Cross had its inexplicable hostility towards me. That kind of hostility was like a magnetic field. We just couldn't coexist. He found me an eyesore, and naturally, I found him to be a massive headache too. He not only made Lily Vance distance herself from me, but also kept an ambiguous relationship with my sister, Chloe Bates. After I tried to stop him, he even sent his so-called good bros to smash the windows of my house. Because of him, my parents were constantly worried that I was mixing with the wrong crowd outside. Since he wanted to play games, I was absolutely going to play along until the very end. I wouldn't want to let down his status as the darling of the... As expected, because Ethan Cross was annoyed, his gang of friends loitered around my house every single day looking to cause trouble. When the camera clearly recorded them using rocks to smash our windows, I directly called the police. Because they ended up lightly injuring my mom and were all over 16, they had to bear legal responsibility. Very quickly, those little punks were all hit with administrative detention. Losing his right-hand henchman, Ethan Cross went absolutely feral. He ran to the bottom of my apartment building, screaming like a maniac, demanding that I give him an explanation. Just looking at that kid, you can tell he's bad news, and his words are so foul. "Don't go down there, Kyle. Lily's mother looked at me with extreme worry. She thought I had accidentally provoked a gang of street thugs. Looking at Auntie Lily, who had always loved me like her own son, those two were currently totally wrapped up in each other. Later on, Ethan Cross would even snatch her precious treasure of a daughter completely away. I remembered that in my past life, Lily Vance was famously known as a total lovesick fool. Knowing her parents didn't approve of Ethan Cross, she decisively followed him to City C. Besides sending back some regular health supplements and a few $100 for their retirement fund every month, she almost never came home. The two elderly parents didn't even get to see their daughter's face, only able to guard an empty house for the rest of their lives. You could honestly say they raised this daughter entirely for Ethan Cross's benefit. After promising not to go downstairs, I still couldn't resist dropping a subtle hint. "Auntie, has Lily been doing okay lately?" Auntie Lily replied. "She's fine, it's just that lately she's been giggling to herself like a goofball. I really don't understand it. Did something happen, Kyle?" She looked at me with curious eyes. I shook my head. "Oh no, nothing. I was just asking randomly. It's just that she rarely walks home with me lately, so I found it a bit strange." "Don't worry too much, Auntie. Who would have thought that a decade of friendship between me and Lily Vance couldn't even compare to an Ethan Cross she had only known for 2 months?" Saying that much was enough. I stayed quiet, letting Auntie Lily figure it out for herself. Seeing that I wasn't going to show my face, Ethan Cross furiously kicked the wall downstairs. Finally, he trudged away, looking incredibly pathetic. The fact that Lily Vance was secretly sneaking around with Ethan Cross was ultimately discovered by Auntie Lily. According to my mom's gossip session, Auntie Lily found an exquisitely wrapped bracelet in her room. It was a birthday gift that Ethan Cross had given to Lily Vance. This bracelet was Lily Vance's most prized possession. Even much later, when she married into extreme wealth, she always wore that faded love token bracelet on her wrist. My mom warned me, "Don't you dare learn those nasty habits of early dating, you hear me? Focusing on your studies is the most important thing. If not, your dad will break your legs." Because of this incident, my dad was so terrified I'd copy them that he nagged my ear off all night long. As for Auntie Lily, she cried the entire night and still hadn't recovered her spirits. My mom pinched my ear while lecturing me. Before, everyone thought Lily was just a bit cold personality-wise. Now we see she just treats people differently. Because of that blonde punk, she didn't hesitate to argue back at Auntie Lily. She even said some truly harsh things that made Auntie Lily heartbroken to death. My mom sighed, seemingly unable to comprehend why Lily Vance had turned out this way. At this point, my mom had no idea that her own daughter, Chloe Bates, was also a massive lovesick fool exactly like Lily Vance. For the exact same guy, this younger sister of mine was willing to abandon her parents just to forgive the man of her dreams. Oh, how pure, how incredibly touching. I asked my mom, "Who is the guy Lily likes?" I pretended to be extremely curious. My mom replied, "I don't know, she'd rather die than tell. Auntie Lily plans to go to the school tomorrow to ask around." I nodded and didn't say anything else. Because of Ethan Cross, Lily Vance, who was always the perfect good student, became rebellious for the very first time. She frantically wanted to show the whole world just how wonderful Ethan Cross was. In her eyes, everyone's prejudice against Ethan Cross was simply because they hadn't discovered his shining qualities yet. Lily Vance said to me, "Kyle, please help me talk. Please give Ethan a hand. He doesn't deserve to be misunderstood by everyone without being able to speak up for himself." I would help literally anyone else, but Ethan Cross was the absolute exception. I would never ever forget the memory of him turning me into his scapegoat. Even if it was a misunderstanding like he claimed, the fact that he caused my demise was undeniable. My parents having no one to rely on in their old age in my past life was entirely thanks to him. Lily Vance shook her head in distress, looking like she was about to go crazy for love. She frowned and said, "Kyle, Ethan already said it. He really didn't know those guys were going to smash your windows. Now they're all locked up anyway. Why do you have to hold on to this and not let go?" I suppressed my raging anger and calmly asked her, "Lily Vance, I'm really curious. Why do you like him so much? So much that you're willing to throw away a friend you grew up with, go against your parents, and even lose your own pride?" She looked up out the window and whispered softly, "When I'm with him, I feel very happy, very free. That feeling is something I've never experienced before. Only he can give that to me. Kyle, Ethan really isn't what you think he is. He only became so rebellious because he's deeply insecure." Mentioning Ethan Cross, Lily Vance's eyes instantly softened. I nodded, putting on a face of sudden realization. "Oh, so that's how it is. But the thing is, I simply don't want to put in a good word for him. So what are you going to do about it?" Having said that, my expression completely flipped, and I directly pushed her out of my front door. "I just find that guy to be a total eyesore. Who the hell does he think he is, expecting everyone to suck up to him? Your mom is absolutely right. He's just a blonde-haired... If you can actually find garbage like that appealing, it proves you're not much better yourself. A delinquent girl actually trying to come in here and teach me how to be a decent person? Stop making a joke out of yourself and get lost." After I finished speaking, I slammed the door shut. From this exact moment, the friendship between me and Lily Vance was officially terminated. My younger sister, Chloe Bates, was attending a private boarding school. During the national holiday, she came back home. She said she was coming back to meet an online friend. In my previous life, I didn't pay attention, but now my intuition was screaming at me. Could this online friend she wanted to meet be that massive jerk, Ethan Cross? My sister asked. Brother, what's wrong with you? I just got back and your face is already as cold as a rock. I don't remember offending you recently, did I? She tugged at my sleeve and shook it. Chloe Bates right now was exactly the same as when she was little, incredibly clingy to her big brother. Back then, in order to make me spend more holiday time with her, she didn't even hesitate to empty her pockets, giving me her entire allowance of $5 she had saved up. I took her luggage and asked back, do you know who this online friend is? A guy or a girl? She replied, I'm not totally sure either, but I feel like this person's personality is really straightforward and generous. We vibe really well when we talk. From Chloe's mouth, I learned they met online, would share music playlists, discuss which movies were good, and talk about what they liked doing on regular days. They told each other almost everything. On the second day of the holiday, Chloe Bates went to meet this online friend. I secretly followed her. When I saw Ethan Cross show up at the plaza wearing an edgy leather, so it turned out Chloe Bates had a crush on Ethan Cross from way back then. In the eyes of adults, Ethan Cross was an undisciplined hooligan, but in the eyes of the girls who liked and admired him, Ethan Cross represented extreme individuality. He lived impulsively, he lived freely. The rebellious aura radiating from him constantly struck their souls, bringing them an ultimate sense of thrill. Just like Lily Vance had said, it was something that boring, honest people like us could never compare to. Ethan Cross gave my sister a crystal snow globe. They chatted for a long time, and then ran off to the mall to play indoor go-karts. From up high, I could see that Chloe Bates was having the time of her life. Seeing the two of them walking out, I immediately stepped forward. I frowned and called out, Chloe Bates. Seeing me, Chloe looked incredibly guilty and quietly called out, Brother! Hearing this, Ethan Cross looked surprised. He looked at my sister, then looked at me, studying me closely for a moment before reacting. He said, Chloe, so Kyle Bates is your brother? I didn't recognize him at first. He was chewing gum while sneering at me with a look of total disdain. Then, he slung his arm over Chloe's shoulder and smiled at me, saying, Since you're her brother, I'll be nice and give you a friendly tip. Mind your own business in the future. If people don't like you, don't show up trying to steal someone else's girl and then stab them in the back. That's just despicable and shameless. Even though he didn't mention Lily Vance's name, the disgust in his tone was crystal clear. He assumed I had snitched to Lily's parents purely out of jealousy. I saw Chloe looking at me with a face full of confusion. I smiled nonchalantly, my voice dropping a few degrees in temperature. Ethan Cross, speaking of despicable, someone who doesn't dare show his face but sends his lackeys to cause trouble, and then immediately wipes his hands clean and refuses to admit it when things go south, is that person despicable or not? Speaking of shameless, someone whose family is loaded and doesn't need to worry about the future, yet actively ruins a good family's daughter, making Lily Vance lie, disobey her parents, and stay out all night for him, is that person shameless or not? On top of that, you actually assumed her parents were completely clueless. Isn't that just pure stupidity? Perhaps one of my sentences struck his fragile ego. Ethan Cross flew into a rage. He lunged forward, grabbing me by the collar, demanding that I shut my mouth immediately. Without flinching, I threw a swift kick that sent him tumbling to the ground. I pinned him down and continued, As for this so-called like, you treat her like a treasure, but in my eyes, she's absolutely nothing. I've never liked her. Stop acting like everyone is dying to fight you over her, you idiot. Just as I was about to follow up with 2 more punches, the back of my head suddenly absorbed a massive, heavy blow. There was a dull, deafening thud. The impact was so strong that my vision instantly went black. In a split second, my hands loosened, and my entire body collapsed onto the ground. By the time I struggled to regain my senses, I caught a glimpse of Chloe's crystal snow globe completely shattered on the floor. My sister, trembling, reached out to help me up, but I aggressively swatted her hand away. She cried, Brother, I didn't mean to. The situation was just so urgent just now, I wasn't thinking straight. Let's go to the hospital, okay? Seeing that I wasn't speaking, Chloe Bates started to panic. The air fell complete. Ethan Cross was gritting his teeth, clutching his vulnerable spot, groaning on the floor. Chloe was entirely at a loss for what to do. I struggled to stand up, forcing out every single word. Chloe Bates, if you like him that much, then just take him as your real brother. Hell, you can even take him as your lover, whatever. From now on, consider that I don't have this sister anymore. May God bless your soul. I dug out the $5 bill she had given me, tossed it onto the ground, turned around, and walked away. After Chloe finished taking Ethan Cross home and returned, she found out I had already been admitted to the hospital. Luckily, the wound wasn't too severe. I just needed to be careful and take my medication. Because of this incident, my dad was overwhelmingly disappointed in Chloe, looking ready to kick her right out of the house. On the day school started, she came to the hospital to visit me, crying and apologizing. Brother, I'm sorry, can you forgive me just this once? I was just about to open my mouth, but then I remembered how, in my past life, she abandoned our parents and went abroad all for Ethan Cross, and how later, she proudly called herself the godmother, showering endless love upon Ethan Cross and Lily Vance's son and daughter. The anger in my heart flared up instantly. I silently stood up and walked into the bathroom, treating it as a silent refusal. Now, the dramatic love triangle between the 3 of them had been exposed prematurely. After realizing Ethan Cross was the guy Lily Vance liked, Chloe completely cut off all contact with him. She baked a cake herself and brought it over to apologize to me. but I didn't eat it. Instead, I directly sent it to Ethan Cross using her online friend persona. Didn't he love the feeling? To recover, I stayed home for a month, only returning to school when I was fully healed. By this time, it was the most stressful period of our senior year. I didn't have the time to care about Lily Vance and Ethan Cross anymore. I only vaguely heard that the two of them were publicly reprimanded by the disciplinary teacher in front of the whole school for dating too early. The news of the goddess Lily Vance dating the blonde punk spread everywhere. Even if I didn't want to know, I was forced to hear about it. Auntie Lily was called to the school countless times. Ethan Cross's family had no adults managing him, and he maintained his uncaring, rebellious face, making everyone both angry and helpless. The only ones truly suffering were Lily Vance's parents. My desk mate patted my shoulder, his face full of gossip. "Kyle, no wonder you haven't been hanging out with Lily Vance lately. How is it? How did it feel being the third wheel before?" I shrugged and replied, "Don't know, don't care, doesn't matter. If you want to know, go ask the people involved." After speaking, I buried my head back into doing practice tests. At this point, I didn't even have the energy to drink water, let alone care if their romance was sweet or not. They were the main characters. They had God protecting them. Even if they messed around, they'd still get a happy ending. But a cannon fodder extra like me? If I wanted what I desired, I had to give it my all and study like my life depended on it. As soon as the dismissal bell rang, Ethan Cross ran in giggling, holding a gift box, and dragged Lily Vance away. "Lily, come with me. I've got something awesome for you." After they left, a few curious classmates followed them. They didn't come back until much later, but no matter who asked, they kept their mouths zipped. On the bus, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but Ethan Cross kept relentlessly teasing Lily Vance right in front of me, only stopping when her face was burning red. "Grandpa, please have a seat here." I stood up and offered my seat to a nearby elderly man. But before the seat was even cold, Ethan Cross planted his backside right onto it. He glanced at me and sneered mockingly, "Such a hypocrite. Playing the good student at school is one thing, but you're still putting on an act all the way out here?" I said with a totally deadpan face. "Trash like you obviously doesn't need to act, because even if you did, no one would buy it. Get up and get lost right now. I'm only gonna say this once." Seeing Ethan Cross about to get physical with me, Lily Vance hastily intervened. "Ethan, don't be like this! We're on a bus!" Seeing Lily Vance frown, Ethan Cross finally stood up begrudgingly, hastily helping the old man sit down. Not wanting to look at that eyesore of a scene anymore, I walked to the front of the bus to stand. Coincidentally, my eyes locked onto Lily Vance's gaze. I stared right back at her. This made Ethan Cross hurriedly step in to block my line of sight. Seeing him act like that, I let out a cold chuckle and turned my head to look at the scenery outside the window. Knowing that Lily Vance's college entrance exams were incredibly important, Ethan Cross learned to control himself a bit better and stopped coming around to cause trouble. However, rumor had it that he had formed a gang with quite a few sketchy people outside school, and that was the exact reason he offended that particular group of street thugs. Very soon, the day that I met my demise in my past life arrived. Terrified of any accidents, I absolutely refused to step foot outside the door when my mom asked me to go buy us a bottle of soy sauce, exactly like in my past. After that, Lily Vance walked out of the house across the street. I looked out the window and noticed her footsteps seemed a bit frantic. That day was destined to be chaotic. When the news broke, Lily Vance had been rushed to the hospital by Ethan Cross with a fractured right arm. This completely destroyed her chances of participating in the college entrance exams the next day. Such a proud, elite student encountering this kind of disaster caught everyone entirely off guard. In the hospital corridor, Ethan Cross sat slumped in a corner, dazed, his eyes completely hollow. Lily's dad had just rushed to the scene. Seeing him, he furiously lunged forward. If the hospital staff hadn't pulled him back, Ethan Cross probably would have been beaten to a pulp. In the original trajectory of the story, the victim had changed, which in turn rippled out and affected the entire future outcome. Seeing Lily Vance lying on the hospital bed with a pale face, Ethan Cross didn't have the same none-of-my-business attitude he had in my past life. He gathered his lackeys, declaring he would make those guys pay the price. No one knows how that turned out, but a heavily bruised and battered Ethan Cross did not experience an awakening like he did in the last life. Instead, he became increasingly unhinged. Degenerate entertainment venues like bars became his frequent haunts. Not only did he pick up smoking, but he also developed a severe drinking problem and got deeply tangled up with people from the underworld. On the day of the college entrance exam, I sat in the exam room, looking at the sun rising after the rain, and finally let out a massive sigh of relief. In this life, I was no longer that short-lived teenager who left behind so many regrets. However, the very night the exams ended, I suddenly fell violently ill, collapsing like a mountain and burning with a high fever all night long. No one knew that I had dreamed of my past life again. In the dream, Ethan Cross and Lily Vance were taking their 2 kids on a camping trip. The 2 little ones were cheerfully chirping Mommy and Daddy. The Ethan Cross in front of me looked incredibly polite and refined, carrying none of the street punk vibes from back in the day. Seeing Lily Vance sneeze, Ethan Cross gently pulled her into his embrace. The 2 looked at each other and smiled, looking deeply in love. This scene of a warm, playful family of 4 made people hesitant to disturb them. But right at that moment, a heavily disguised stranger whose face couldn't be seen walked straight toward them. It all happened so fast. There was only a massive boom sound. Flames shot into the sky. That family of 4 all lost their lives in this man-made disaster, taking the vicious perpetrator down with them. Perhaps this was the actual, true ending of my previous life. Thinking about this, it seemed I didn't feel so deeply resentful anymore. After all, what goes around comes around. Good is rewarded, and evil is punished. Everyone faces their own karma. Because of this storm-like illness, I was unconscious for 3 whole days before waking up. As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw my parents looking visibly thinner, their eyes brimming with tears. But my mom's mouth still couldn't resist scolding me. I told you not to kick the blankets off at night, but did you listen? Now look at you, lying in a hospital bed getting an IV drip. Who can you blame? My mom frustratingly poked my forehead. I yelped, "Ah, you're killing me! Dad, your wife is bullying me." I clutched my head, pretending to be pitiful. My dad stood beside us, chiming in, "You little brat, you deserve to be taught a lesson by your mother." The hospital room was filled with joyful laughter and chatter. Waking up this time, the heavy chains that had been weighing down on my body seemed to have been unlocked. I felt unusually light and free, and even breathing felt much easier. Some memories were gradually fading. I didn't know since when, but I had started forgetting a few things that happened in my past life. On the day I was discharged, I conveniently swung by to visit Lily Vance for a bit. In her hospital room, she was holding a book, reading. Her right arm was wrapped in a thick, clunky cast, making her movements very awkward. Because of Ethan Cross, the relationship between her and me had become incredibly stiff. Seeing her just staring at me without speaking, I coughed lightly and asked dryly, "Are you planning to repeat the year?" She lowered her head, looking like she wasn't in a good headspace, and replied, "Yeah." Then she asked, "Kyle Bates, how did your exams go? Were the papers hard?" I pretended to think seriously, then said, "Pretty good. If there are no surprises, I'll definitely get into my dream university." I smiled nonchalantly, openly twisting the knife in her heart. Consider it my revenge for how she made things so difficult for my parents in my past life. Now that I hadn't kicked the bucket, this deeply in love couple could entangle themselves however they pleased. Because of Auntie Lily's fierce obstruction, Lily Vance hadn't seen Ethan Cross in 2 whole days. Before I left, she looked at me with an expression of wanting to say something, but holding back, clearly having a message she wanted me to pass on. I raised an eyebrow, pretending not to notice. Just as I stepped 1 foot out of the room, Lily Vance hurriedly called out, her face full of embarrassment. "Kyle, could you help me pass a message to Ethan? Tell him not to blame himself. I've never blamed him. What I said that day was just out of anger." Before she even finished, I coldly rejected her. "No way." Seeing Chloe Bates approaching from a distance, I changed my tone, smiling as I said, "But someone else might be very willing to pass on a message for you. After all, she and Ethan Cross do share a bit of history." Chloe Bates still talked to me completely normally. "Brother, Mom and Dad told me to call you to come home." It was as if everything that happened before had never existed. I nodded, pointed toward Lily Vance, and said softly, "She needs a favor from you. You two chat. I'll wait at the hospital entrance." When Chloe finally walked out, her face was completely calm. At that moment, I was a bit curious if, while waiting for a red light, Chloe suddenly asked me, "Brother, you really hate Ethan Cross, don't you?" "Can I ask why?" I replied casually. "Not exactly hate, I just can't stand him. Some people's vibes just clash from the start. There's no way to exist peacefully." Seeing her stay quiet, I continued, "If you really like that blonde punk so much and want him as my brother-in-law, then I suggest you pack your bags and move out with him early. And don't bring him home to meet Mom and Dad. Nobody in our house will welcome him. Got it?" This is also exactly what Mom and Dad think. Her face was full of grievance as she said, "What are you talking about? He's Lily's boyfriend. We're just regular online friends." I stayed indifferent. "Whatever you say. It has nothing to do with me anyway." Out of habit, she tried to tug my sleeve and act cute, but I dodged her. Seeing me so repulsed, Chloe sighed and didn't say anything more. On the day the university admission letters arrived, I happened to catch Lily Vance and Ethan Cross arguing downstairs. Ethan Cross felt that Lily Vance was avoiding him lately, so he suspected she had another guy. Being falsely accused, Lily Vance was irritated. "Ethan, we both have to repeat our senior year now. Aren't you going to get your act together? Even though I'm repeating at a different school, we can still study together after class. Didn't we promise to get into the same university?" Ethan Cross right now was like a wild horse that snapped its reins, refusing to be constrained by anyone. He waved his hand dismissively, paying zero attention to Lily Vance's words, his posture careless. "What's the big deal? School hasn't even started yet. There's plenty of time to have fun first. I promise I'll study hard when school starts and stop going to the bar." Rumor had it that Ethan Cross had recently scored a part-time gig as a singer and guitarist at a bar, and was highly sought after by the girls there. No wonder Lily Vance felt so incredibly insecure. Because I didn't pass away, the trajectory of both their lives had changed entirely. Lily Vance had to repeat a year, while Ethan Cross was still lost in his partying, lacking absolutely any of the epiphany he had in my past life. On the day I had to report to college, the closer it got, the more reluctant my parents were to let me go. On the morning of my departure, my mom rushed into my room, hugged me tight, and sobbed uncontrollably. She kept muttering, "It's so good, this is so good," which left me feeling a bit confused. I yelled out, "Save me, Mom, you're squeezing too tight, I can't breathe." Even though I normally stress you guys out, you've raised me. If something happens to me before you get your return on investment, you'll be taking a huge loss. So just let me live a good life, okay? Hearing this, my mom finally stopped weeping, but then irritably pinched my ear and scolded. What nonsense are you spewing? Get up already, whose kid is as lazy as you? I swear. In my groggy state, I seemed to feel her shoulders shaking in waves. After Mom left the room, I checked my watch. It was only 6 a.m., so I rolled over and went right back to sleep. When I woke up again, my mom was back to normal, only the corners of her eyes were slightly red. Son, eat more? Look at how skinny you've gotten. Dad piled a bowl full of food for me, staring at me with bright, glowing eyes. I replied, yes, thank you, Dad. Perhaps because we were about to be separated, my eyes suddenly felt hot. Tears fell into my rice bowl, making me look a bit pathetic. That day, neither of them went to work, saying they wanted to help me pack so they could send me off to school tomorrow. That night, Dad patted my shoulder, saying he wanted a real man-to-man showdown. He arm wrestled me, just like when I was a little kid. This time, I won, but Dad wasn't pretending to lose on purpose anymore. He looked at me with deep relief. In just the blink of an eye, you've grown this big. Your mom and I are both just so happy that you're safe and sound. Kyle, Dad doesn't need you to achieve some massive grand success. As long as you're safe and happy, that's enough. You have to remember that Mom and Dad will always love you. I hugged my dad tight, tears falling silently, completely unaware of the anomaly in his words. In my past life, I passed away far too early, forcing the white-haired to bury the black-haired. Reborn for a second chance, I still didn't have much time to stay by their side, and now I was preparing to travel far away again. It was only when I woke up the next morning that I accidentally noticed the hair at my parents' temples had turned significantly grayer. Because my university was within the same province, the whole family quickly arrived at the campus. After setting up my dorm, my mom nagged me with endless instructions. I had clearly promised to come home whenever I was free, yet she was acting as if I was leaving and never coming back. She looked at me, her voice a bit choked up. Son, you have to live a really good life. Don't let yourself get sick, okay? Watching their retreating backs, flashes of scenes from my past life suddenly rushed into my mind. My nose stung and I couldn't help but shout, Mom, Dad! Neither of them turned around. They just let me watch their figures slowly fade into the distance. University life was incredibly colorful. I was busy participating in club activities, completely lacking the time. Later, my mom told me that because of Ethan Cross, Lily Vance's grades plummeted drastically. The two of them were now having minor fights every 3 days and major blowouts every 5 days. Lily Vance's mental state was getting a bit frantic. One was a fallen honors student repeating a year because of love, according to the adults. The other was the notorious delinquent of the #1 high school. In the end, their romance really wasn't as beautiful as the novel described. During the winter break when I came home, I ran into Lily Vance right outside the door. Our eyes met, and she surprisingly greeted me. After all, ever since she got together with Ethan Cross, we had reached the point of treating each other like invisible air. I nodded in response. Just as I was about to go inside, she called out, Kyle, I want to apologize for my unreasonable behavior back then. Honestly, I don't want to lose a good friend like you. She observed my facial expression and continued, Do you still remember when we were kids? I couldn't stand listening to this anymore and directly interrupted her. Love requires effort from both sides, and so does friendship. We can't go back anymore. She lowered her head, biting her lip, and said, I'm sorry, I went too far. Lily Vance forced a bitter smile, trying hard to hide her embarrassment. The fact that she was actually doing some self-reflection only proved one thing. Her relationship with Ethan Cross had hit the rocks. Perhaps this world truly did revolve around those two, because throughout the entire break, I kept accidentally running into them arguing. Ethan Cross remained wild and uncaring, maintaining ambiguous relationships with 1 or 2 nameless girls. Lily Vance became increasingly insecure. That day, Ethan Cross blocked Lily Vance's path, looking extremely There's nothing going on. Why won't you just believe me? But Lily Vance just stared at the man in front of her and seriously said, Ethan Cross, let's break up. Ethan immediately replied, No way. I disagree. You said you'd never leave me. Panicking, he tightly hugged Lily Vance, refusing to let go. Lily frowned. I said, let's break up. Her eyes were filled with absolute determination. She cast her eyes down, hiding her sorrowful emotions, and choked out, Actually, my mom was right. We were never people from the same world to begin with. You yearn for freedom, but I want a stable future. I don't like you going to places like those bars. Recently, we've fought countless times, and you always just brush me off half-heartedly. I'm truly too exhausted. So please, just let me go. Ethan Cross was a prideful person by nature. Seeing Lily Vance push it this far, how could he shamelessly keep clinging to her? He raised his hand and viciously slapped Lily Vance across the face. He laughed coldly, Consider me completely blind. Turns out you're not much of a catch either. The two of them had completely gone their separate ways. The trajectory of fate had veered onto a completely different path from my previous life. After the breakup, Lily Vance poured all her energy into studying, which brought a lot of relief to her parents. As for Ethan Cross, being the illegitimate son of a wealthy family, he lacked any sense of crisis. He spent his days skipping class and going to bars to hit on girls. Unsurprisingly, Lily Vance achieved great results in the exam this time around. She returned to being the model neighbor's perfect kid, praised by everyone. I thought the male and female leads would rekindle their old flame like in the script. After all, that's a common trope in novels. But soon after, Lily Vance chose to attend a university up north, thousands of miles away. And Ethan Cross quickly found himself a new girlfriend. The two of them truly lost all contact with each other. In my senior year of college, I was debating where to develop my career after graduation. While taking a walk to clear my head on an overpass, I stumbled upon a street fortune teller's stall. As I walked past, he suddenly called out, "Young man, care for a reading?" I smiled, shook my head, and was about to keep walking when I heard him say, "Born with a short-lived destiny, yet your fate has been altered. Truly miraculous." Saying this, he stroked a non-existent beard on his chin. As someone who was reborn, hearing those words made my heart skip a beat. It felt as if I was being completely seen through. I approached the stall, pretending to be perfectly calm, smiled and said, "I don't quite understand what you mean, master." "You must have misread," he replied. "Misread or not, you know the truth best in your own heart." He read my palm and continued, "Cause is destiny. Connection is variable. According to your original trajectory, you were supposed to meet your end at 18. It's just that someone used the good karma of their entire lifetime to trade for a chance to change your fate. Am I wrong?" I had no more doubts. At this moment, I finally understood. So, my rebirth wasn't born out of my own unwillingness. There are countless suffering people in this world. Why was I the only one who received the mercy of the gods? He said, "Your parents loved you dearly, planning deeply for you from life unto death. The river of love never ceases to flow. Young man, cherish the little time your family has left." He sighed, patted my shoulder, packed up his stall, and left. I suddenly recalled the strange behavior my parents showed on the More accurately, they didn't act like my current parents. They acted like my parents from my past life, coming back just to look at my face one more time. Remembering that dream, every single doubt was answered in this instant. I smiled bitterly. So, my parents traded their own lifespans just so I could live again. After graduating, I returned to my hometown to build my career, finding a job that wasn't too demanding so I could spend all my time with my parents. Even though they acted annoyed on the outside, I could still feel how incredibly happy they were having me around. Later, at 26, I proposed to Valerie, my junior from university. We dated for 3 years, and eventually things naturally fell into place, and we tied the knot. After getting married, we bought an apartment right across from my parents' place. Over the years, Chloe Bates had failed so many classes that she was expelled from school. By the time I received Lily Vance's wedding invitation, Valerie was already 5 months pregnant. The groom wasn't Ethan Cross. I heard he was Lily's colleague. At the wedding, Lily Vance acted very elegant, confident, and beautiful. The groom looked at her with eyes overflowing with love. Who would have thought that the guy she once loved to death, Ethan Cross, had truly become a thing of the past? The business world values propriety and reputation. Because Ethan Cross wasn't as outstanding as he was in his past life, he was never claimed and groomed by the Cross family. Not to mention, the Cross family now had a new heir. How could there be any room left for him? Just a few short years had passed, and no one heard any news about Ethan Cross anymore. I only heard that after graduating, he borrowed from loan sharks, failed at starting a business, and fell into the underworld. He even got involved with illegal substances. By the time little Charlie turned 3, my parents' health began taking a sharp turn for the worse. Just as the fortune teller had predicted, their bodily functions were deteriorating rapidly. I lowered my head, my nose stinging, tears falling freely, as I asked, "Mom, if you didn't have me, would you and Dad have lived a more relaxed life? I always feel like I'm just here to collect a debt." My mom frowned and scolded, "Stop talking nonsense, you're much more filial than your sister. Without you, that brat would have angered us to death long ago. Before, we were always worried about you, but now seeing you two living so well, we can rest easy. But you really need to fix that hot temper of yours. Don't go bullying someone else's precious daughter." Seeing Mom defend Valerie, I helplessly rubbed my forehead. "Mom, Valerie is doing that on purpose to act pitiful in front of you guys. How could I possibly bully her?" She smiled. "I know, so stop saying those delirious. Your dad and I never regretted bringing you into this world. We love you very much." "Okay, I know." From then on, I never spoke those pessimistic words again. I had known for a long time that they truly loved me deeply. Companionship is the longest confession of love, and I stayed right by their side. By pure coincidence, while Lily Vance was out shopping with her husband, Victor Thorne, Ethan Cross suddenly appeared. The three of them bumped into each other right at the entrance of a clothing store. Seeing the woman he had been missing all this time, Ethan Cross's eyes turned red. He completely ignored Victor Thorne's existence, rushed straight up to Lily Vance and demanded, "Lily, you promised to marry me. How are you someone else's wife now? What about me? What about our children?" Hearing Ethan Cross spouting crazy nonsense, Lily Vance glanced at her husband, who was turning pale beside her. Out of embarrassment and anger, she yelled, We broke up 10 years ago. Stop talking nonsense." "Hubby, listen to me. The baby is absolutely yours. We can go do a DNA test." Seeing Lily Vance dodging him like she had seen a ghost, Ethan Cross's heart filled with extreme bitterness. He said hoarsely, "Lily, we're not supposed to be like this." He stared at Victor Thorne, speaking with hidden meaning. "In my memory, you and I are the perfect match. After we got married, you gave me a boy and a girl. Our life was so happy. Everything I did for you, and everything you did for me. Don't you remember anything? Up until this very day, he still didn't know who had eliminated his entire family in the previous life. What Ethan Cross found even more unacceptable was the fact that he was reborn, but this world had undergone earth-shattering changes. Nothing bad happened to me. Instead, Lily Vance was the one dragged down by him. He didn't pass the college exams and he broke up with Lily Vance early on. Even the Cross family refused to acknowledge his identity, leaving him to fend for himself outside. Lately, he had been living worse than a stray animal. From an arrogant, wealthy second-generation heir, he had devolved into an addict despised by everyone. Nobody respected him. He could never understand why he had fallen to this point. The massive disparity made Ethan Cross instinctively blurt out his desire to back out, but all he got in return was a stinging slap from the gang boss. "Ethan Cross, you're nothing but my obedient little pet. Don't be having delusional daydreams, or I'll make you disappear real quick." Very soon after facing reality, Ethan Cross obediently let people boss him around. He only hoped to find a chance to escape and look for Lily Vance, but when he finally found her, she was already by another man's side. They were acting intimate, their relationship obviously not simple. Now, he had absolutely nothing. Even Lily Vance had abandoned him. He wanted to find me to ask for an explanation, because after all, I was the biggest variable in this world. But hearing Lily Vance say I had moved, and even she didn't know my whereabouts, he was utterly helpless in a vast sea of people. Perhaps out of pure bitterness, Ethan Cross started stirring up trouble. He deliberately told Victor Thorne exactly how he had dragged Lily Vance into the mud, and how she had to repeat a year entirely because of him. He smirked. "Don't you realize Lily is just looking at me through you?" Noticing that their eyebrows and eyes looked somewhat similar, Ethan Cross started spouting absolute chaos. Because they had been a deeply loving married couple for years in the past life, Ethan Cross knew Lily Vance's body far too well. The moment he mentioned the birthmark in a very private place on her body, the face of the Victor Thorne across from him instantly changed color. Victor gritted his teeth. "Stop talking absolute garbage. How could my wife possibly?" Ethan Cross laughed, cutting him off. "Why couldn't she? We hooked up way back in high school. What position haven't we tried? I even took her to the clinic to deal with a little accident once." Ethan Cross smiled a fake smile as he watched the man's retreating back. He clutched his right cheek, which was swollen from being hit, and spat out a mouthful of blood. If he was already ruined, why shouldn't they all be ruined together? Regardless of anything, Lily Vance could only ever belong to him alone. Perhaps as more past secrets were dragged out, Victor Thorne couldn't take it anymore and filed for divorce. A proud man like Victor would never accept someone else's leftovers. After their divorce, Ethan Cross started stalking Lily Vance, demanding they revive the... With red eyes, she screamed, "Ethan Cross, on what grounds do you think I'd get back together with a piece of human garbage like you? You really are a bad luck charm cursed specifically to haunt me. It was like this back then, and it's like this now. Ethan Cross, I'm begging you, just let me go, can you?" Being forced into a divorce, Lily Vance was on her way to salvage her relationship with Victor Thorne when she was intercepted by thugs called by Ethan Cross, who violently fractured her leg. Seeing Lily Vance act this insane for the first time, Ethan Cross was so terrified he nearly wet himself. He trembled. Lily, calm down, it's me, Ethan. Aren't I the one you love the most? Give me one more chance. I promise I'll turn over a new leaf." Lily Vance laughed coldly, full of sheer contempt, her eyes overflowing with absolute disgust. She scoffed heavily. "You, worthy?" It wasn't until this very moment that Ethan Cross realized it had only been a few short months, yet God had forced him to taste the ultimate plunge from the highest peak straight down to hell. After Ethan Cross was taken out, he opened his eyes again. He had returned to the exact moment the family of four was out camping in the previous life. Just as he was rejoicing, thinking it was all just a terrible nightmare, a scorching wave of heat blasted straight toward him. At the exact moment true death descended upon him, Ethan Cross only felt that this world was truly a load of crap. As for Chloe Bates, from the very first moment she laid eyes on Ethan Cross, Chloe knew she was crushing hard. It was a very strange feeling. They hadn't known each other long, but she always wanted to sneak a few more peeks at him. Kyle's subsequent appearance snapped her back to reality for a moment, but right after, she ended up severely hurting the brother who loved her most. All for Ethan Cross. Because of this, everyone said she was... Her parents even wanted to kick her out of the house. Even though Chloe always insisted it was an accident and tried her best to make up for it, she never received her family's forgiveness. After returning to school, because her brother forced her to keep her distance from Ethan Cross, she never breathed a word even while being cyberbullied by Ethan, just to pass a message for Lily Vance and confirm her own feelings. Chloe intentionally went to see Ethan Cross one more time. At that time, he was recklessly drag racing with a bunch of hooligans. Watching Ethan Cross screaming and acting like a maniac from afar, the fluttering feeling in her heart instantly vanished without a trace. It was also in this moment that Chloe Bates finally understood just how laughably wrong she had been. For a cheap street punk, she had raised her hand against the older brother, who had cherished her most since childhood. Growing up, Kyle had always spoiled her, constantly calling her little sister, and saving all the best things for her. Yet, what had she done? Chloe covered her face, tears streaming through her fingers. Later, having no face to confront her family, Chloe Bates fled to an unfamiliar place and practically never returned. When Kyle got married, Chloe, being so far away, didn't receive the news at all. Everyone treated her as if she didn't exist, and she truly didn't dare to appear in front of them, only able to hide in dark corners, watching silently. She sent countless gifts back home, hoping to make up for her sins, but Kyle returned every single one of them. Throughout all these years, Chloe Bates allowed herself to live in the regret of her past, turning herself into a lonely, pathetic, and miserable soul.